Hello and welcome to this new episode of Daughters of Narcissistic Mothers podcast. I'm Matilde and I'm your host. I'm an inner transformation mentor, supporting women in healing mother wounds through the one-on-one 10 weeks program and through Reclaim Your Fullness online community. To know more about these offerings, sign up to the newsletter or visit the website womenreclaimingtheirfullness.me. All the links are in the description of this episode. So today we're going to talk about the 8 signs the feeling of inadequacy rules your life. So the 8 signs you can spot and become aware of to recognize that the feeling of inadequacy is ruling your life. And also I'm going to share with you 5 steps that will help you heal from this. And let's start with asking you, is your life ruled by the feeling of inadequacy? Do you know? What does feeling inadequate even mean? It means constantly questioning who you are, your worth, and your capacity to achieve anything in life. Does that feel familiar? As daughters of narcissistic mothers, we often have to deal with a deeply rooted feeling of inadequacy, a feeling of not being enough. As we know, a narcissistic mother's love is non-existent at worst, and very conditional at best. So we grew up with a deeply rooted belief that we're not enough the way we are, that we're not inherently lovable just by being us. This fuels the feeling of inadequacy that ends up ruling your life even now. So what are the signs that the feeling of inadequacy is ruling your life? 1. Constantly on the go. One way the feeling of inadequacy can rule your life is by making you keep busy all the time. Doing. You keep doing so much while inside you feel like you're never doing enough. Have you ever cleaned the house, for example, top to bottom, only to feel it is not good enough by the time you're finished? That's the feeling of inadequacy right there. You go, but you're not doing enough. You feel like you're not doing enough. Number 2, people pleasing. The feeling of inadequacy rules are relating to others too. We end up becoming people pleasers in order to keep friends around, in order to keep a partner around, in order to be liked at work or in any other social scenario we are. At the root of people pleasing, there's a strong feeling of inadequacy. The deeply rooted belief that you are not enough as you are to deserve love and appreciation, but you need to keep pleasing others instead in order to receive any bit of love. Number 3 is hopelessness. This is the opposite of the do behavior that we saw earlier, and yet is still coming from the feeling of inadequacy. This is the why bother feeling. Why bother when you already know you're not good enough to see it through, or to make it right, or to create a success? And this comes accompanied by lack of energy, lack of motivation, chronic procrastination, and even depression. So this sense of hopelessness comes from this inner deeply rooted belief of inadequacy, of not feeling enough to be able to actually do the things you want to do. So why would you even start doing them? Number 4, imposter syndrome. This is when you actually go for something you want to achieve, and you're even quite successful at it, but then you feel like you're not good enough for it. It's the voice that tells you there are surely better qualified and capable people out there that would do what you want to do 1,000,000 times better, and that sooner or later people will find out and everyone will know you were a fraud to begin with. So you either start and stop what you wanted to do, or you keep going but have to live with constant anxiety to be found out as this fraud you believe you are. This feeling of being an imposter is what you do. The imposter syndrome is also rooted in the feeling of inadequacy. Number 5, comparing. The feeling of inadequacy is what pushes you to constantly compare yourself to others. And you either come up short, just like your mother probably told you 1,000,000 times when she was using comparison to compare you to others, like recognizing qualities in others that you feel too inadequate to be able to have yourself, or you need to strongly judge others in order to temporarily feel good about yourself. So you compare yourself to others on the inside, but on the outside you're actually attacking anyone that you feel might be doing better than you to make yourself feel better. Number 6, seeking validation. When validation from others is the only way to feel energized, it's a clear sign there's a deeply rooted feeling of inadequacy in yourself. This is when instead of doing what you do for yourself, you're doing it to get recognition and validation from others. This leads to living a life that is not what you wanted at all, but is only based on what you have learned gets you the validation. In the same way, you will be constantly worried about what others think of you, their judgment of you, and their expectations of you. And all of this will dictate how you live. Number 7, defensiveness. Underneath the feeling of inadequacy, there is a deeply rooted feeling of shame that has been planted there by your mother, of course. Often we have no idea that's there at all. I definitely didn't for a long time, and when made aware of it, I took my time accepting this fact. So I totally get you. So if you're thinking there is no shame there, I get it. But that's what is behind the feeling of inadequacy. And you might notice how you end up taking a criticism highly personally, needing to quickly justify yourself and get very defensive, like someone saying something to you that is not a positive statement becomes like a highly personal attack to you, all the way to get very upset anytime someone expresses what you perceive as a criticism of you, because it mightn't actually even be a criticism. It can just be a comment that someone says that immediately becomes taken by you as criticism, and the story in your head is telling you that these people are highly judging you and they're criticizing you and they don't approve of you and all of that, when in reality that's not what's happening at all. 8, and the last one, extreme jealousy. Jealousy is also rooted in the feeling of inadequacy. When you don't feel good enough to get what you dream, you get very jealous of all who seem to be getting there. If you feel you don't have what it takes to be successful at your dream job, the woman who is will make you feel very jealous. And this also goes for extreme jealousy within relationships, whether friendships or romantic. If you feel inadequate deep down, you will feel jealous if your friend has other friends they like to hang out with, for example. If you feel you're not maybe good looking enough or not enough in any other way, you will feel very jealous of any other person your partner gives any bit of attention to. Now, I'm Italian and I have no issues with a bit of healthy jealousy within a relationship, but if it gets extreme, that's a different story, and that is where we're going back to that feeling of inadequacy deep inside. So, does any of this feel familiar? Do you ever feel anything like that? So let's recap for a second. We spoke about being constantly on the go being the first sign, then the people pleasing, hopelessness, the whole why bother feeling, then number 4, the imposter syndrome, number 5, comparing, number 6, seeking validation, number 7, defensiveness, taking things really personal, and number 8, extreme jealousy. So do you ever feel like that? I certainly did and still do at times for sure. If you have been listening to this podcast for a while, you have heard me saying how guilt has been my biggest challenge in healing from the narcissistic abuse I received in my family, and that's absolutely true. The next biggest challenge has been dealing with the feeling of inadequacy. I never felt good enough. And I either attacked it by judging others severely, habit I've learned by watching my family doing it all the time, because they were doing that constantly. It was all about judging others to feel better about themselves. Or I fell into complete hopelessness and depression, lack of motivation, not being able, the whole why bother sort of thing. I'm not good enough to do this. And even if I succeed, they will realize the whole imposter syndrome. They will realize I'm a fraud no matter what. So I realized that it wasn't only the put downs from my mother that fueled the feeling of inadequacy, but also the competition that my mother felt with me. I've instinctively learned from a very young age that if I wanted to be loved by my mother, I could not ever outshine her. I had to play small. She had to be the one that was better, or that pointed me in a direction I would not have seen by myself. When I experimented with something, she would be quick to dismiss it as silly or impossible to achieve. And all of this was at the root of the feeling of inadequacy that was with me for most of my life. So you may have experienced something similar with your mother too, or maybe your mother used comparisons as a way to make you feel inadequate. A narcissistic mother often uses comparisons with others to make you feel bad or to show you what is acceptable and what is not, to let you know what you came up short in and what you should do or practice more. And this feeds the feeling of inadequacy. Or you may have been scapegoated and made feel bad about yourself every minute of every day with very direct put downs. So you grew up feeling you don't deserve to go for your dreams, that you're not enough and good enough, and that you don't have what it takes to be loved at all. There are many of the toxic behaviors a narcissistic mother goes for that will feed the feeling of inadequacy within her child. And we all have our personal experience of this. So at this point, what is important to speak to is, how can you overcome the feeling of inadequacy and stop it from ruling your life? It's okay to feel what you feel. First of all, there's nothing wrong with you for feeling inadequate in life. As we mentioned, this very likely came from your childhood with a toxic mother who was not able to give the foundations to give you the foundations for you to grow into a self-loving and confident person. So it's not your fault, and most of all, it is never too late to start feeling very good about yourself. So you can definitely do it. And I want you to hear this. So none of it is your fault. As I say very often, you're not alone in this, because you're not. There's plenty of us out there living with this deeply rooted feeling of inadequacy, and you can definitely do it. There's not at any point anything in you that is final, that's just the way you are and that's it, you're never going to be able to overcome it. You can definitely get to a place where you start feeling very good about yourself in a really grounded, embodied way. That is possible. So with that said, let's have a look at a couple of steps you can take from today to support you with overcoming inadequacy. I have 5 steps I want to share with you in total today. So the first one is stop comparing yourself to others. This is a conscious decision you must take for yourself. When you catch yourself comparing yourself to another, stop that train straight away. Whenever the voice of comparison comes up, that's your toxic mother's talking, not you. So no point going there. The medicine for comparison is inspiration. Look for inspiration in others. If you see someone doing something you also want to do, be inspired by their success. If they did it, you can do it too. Or learn what they did, so you can get closer to your goal too. So stop comparing yourself to others. That's like never helpful. It's actually never helpful. When and 99.9999 out of 100 times that we do this, it's coming from that deeply rooted sense of inadequacy. So no point going there. It's never going to make you feel better. Transform it into inspiration. Get inspired by others that are doing what you want to do. Point number 2, growth mindset instead of fixed mindset. This is very important. This is another conscious decision you need to make. You're an expanding human being with the inherent capacity to learn what you don't know. So there is nothing you can't expand into when you place your attention to it. So that would be the growth mindset. The fixed mindset is the one that tells you That is how you are, and that's how you're always going to be. You're incapable, you're a people pleaser, you're not enough, whatever, and that's just it. That's fixed. It's never going to change, so why bother? The growth mindset instead tells you that there's nothing you can't expand into when you place your attention to it. What makes you you, you now, is not fixed. You can learn, grow, and expand in anything. When you recognize you're not skilled at something, instead of saying, oh, I was never good at learning new languages, for example, say, I haven't mastered how to learn a new language yet. Does that make sense? So the first statement is very final. I was never good at learning a new language. Well, there's no options there to ever change that. If you say, I haven't mastered how to learn a new language yet, that yet at the end, it's fundamental. If it is truly what you want to do, then you will find a way to do it. Point number 3, gifts, not flaws. So make a list of your gifts. No matter if your mother never recognized any of them, you know they're there. She may have described you as naive and easily manipulated, which would be a flaw, yeah? When in truth, you are a loyal, loving friend, which is a gift. She may have told you you're too sensitive, which would be a flaw. When in truth, that sensitivity is what makes you such a great artist, or a wonderful mother, or a wonderful partner and friend. Again, a gift. She may have told you you're too practical, when in truth, you're resilient and very creative in finding a solution. Yet again, a gift. You see where I'm going with this? Now keep going. Make a list. Doesn't have to be long, but I have the feeling you will add to it the more you feel into this. And bring your attention to all the wonderful gifts you bring to this world and to those close to you. Point number 4, be kind with yourself. When you realize there's something you could do better, first of all, choose to acknowledge how already good you are at it. And then stay with the knowledge that there's nothing you can't learn. I'm going to say this again because this is so important. So when you realize there's something you could do better, first of all, choose to acknowledge how already good you are at it. And then stay with the knowledge that there is nothing you can't learn. So rather than putting yourself down for what you don't know how to do, no one was born already knowing everything. Take a moment and decide what's the next most impactful step you can take to improve your skill. Not because you're defective, but because you want to expand. This again kind of goes with the growth mindset, yeah? You can expand, but you're expanding not from a place of lack, just because you're not good enough or defective. You're expanding because that's just what we do. That's what humans do. We grow, we expand, we want to learn more, we want to do more, we want to have more not in a greedy way, but in a beautiful, expansive way. That's just human nature. And then 5th point, self-praise is allowed. You are so allowed to tell yourself you're doing great. That is not arrogance. That is just acknowledging yourself and loving yourself. You are allowed to acknowledge your successes, your brilliance, your achievements. Despite what you've been told growing up, all of those achievements are not small things anyone could have accomplished, or maybe just luck. They're major achievements and they deserve your acknowledgement. Make a list of 3 things you've achieved in your day, however small you feel they are. Do this every night and tell yourself you have done good. There have been times when one of those achievements for me was I got out of bed this morning. And that was a major achievement from where I was at that time, when I was really, well, you could say depressed, and I lacked motivation and I had no energy. So for me, getting up out of bed in the morning was actually a major achievement. and it needed acknowledgement from myself. So no matter how small they feel to you, give yourself credit for 3 things that you've achieved in your day every night. Do that for a while and see how that goes. So let's recap these 5 steps because they're very important. So here we're working on that deeply rooted feeling of not being enough. And again, as you know, there's practices and things that if you've been listening for a while, you know there's practices that we can do to support your nervous system in general and your entire body system to release the wounding, to release the trauma, to process emotions and all of that. And that part is really, really important. But today, these 5 steps, I wanted to give you something super practical that you can do from now, immediately, from this moment. So the first thing is conscious choice of stop comparing yourself to others. Just stop that. Use inspiration instead. So inspirations, not comparisons. The second thing is the growth mindset. It's never too late to expand and nothing of you is fixed. You can grow and learn into anything you want to. The third point is gifts. Make a list of your gifts. Even if your mother labeled those things as flaws, as defective things that you have, they're not. They're gifts. She just didn't want you to see that. So make a list of your gifts, all the beautiful things you bring to this world. And I know there's many of them. You're so gifted. I know that. Even if I've never met you, I know that because we all are. And number 4, be very kind with yourself. So you are wanting to expand not because you're defective or because you should master everything, but because you want to. And that's it. And acknowledge how good you are at things already. So be very kind with yourself. And then number 5, self-praise is 100% allowed, no matter what you've been taught. I've been taught that self-praise is no praise. I said bullshit to that. Self-praise is 100% allowed. One is rooted in actually the fact that you are so good at it already. You are such a brilliant human being. There's so much you can do, and that's important to be acknowledged. So every night, that's how you practice the self-praise. It's not just going around arrogantly, but every night before you go to bed, list 3 things you've achieved that day that felt like achievements to you. Even if they seem really, really small, that doesn't matter. So these are the 5 steps to help you and support you in gently shifting that belief of being inadequate, that feeling of inadequacy inside of you, and gently shift it into being enough. You are enough. You are so enough. You're so lovable exactly as you are. And that voice inside of you that tells you you're not, that is always your toxic mother's voice. Is never the truth. Never. If it's putting you down, that's not true. If it's putting you down, it's not your intuition, it's not like some higher power, it's nothing. It's just toxicity in your system that's been put there by your mother or by whatever narcissistic member of your family or toxic member of your family in your childhood when you were growing up. It is not the truth. You are so lovable and so enough. And by practicing these 5 things I said here every day, you're gonna see some shifts in your life. So let us hear in the comments what your experience of this has been. And yeah, I am sending you so much love. I wish you a wonderful week. And I remind you to give a check to the offerings in the links below. The one-on-one program has a couple of spaces open at the moment, and also the waiting list for Reclaim Your Fullness online community is open for you to sign up to it, so that when the doors open, I believe it's going to be August, you will have priority to be able to get in. So with that said, have a wonderful week. Lots of love, and bye for now.